Great. So we are now recording and welcome everyone. I see people are coming in. Again, my name is Jameson Dixon and I am the Assistant Director of, I just forgot my title. I'm the Assistant Director of Employer Engagement and Diversity Recruiting here at the DePaul Career Center, and I work on our employer engagement team. And I want to welcome you all to our first event of Careers in Computer Science. This event is put on by the Technology and Design Career Community, and we're going to get started. And so I want to do a brief introduction of our team. I'll let our team members speak here, but again, my name is Jameson, and I work specifically with companies from technology, design, media, arts, communications, helping those organizations develop strategies for the best ways to recruit DePaul students for full-time jobs and internships. And that's my job, so I'm going to pass it over to Lauren if you want to just do a short intro of yourself, and then after Lauren, if Sang, you want to do a short intro.
Everyone, I am Lauren Bobrin. I am the career advisor at DePaul for our technology and design career community. For any students that don't know me, my role is primarily student facing. If for any of your one-on-one advising appointment needs, I'm definitely happy to chat with you about anything career related. We can put instructions on how to schedule appointments in the chat later in this event as well. And I wanted to introduce Sang Lee, our new career ambassador for our technology and design career community. Sang just started this quarter as well. And she will also be here to help monitor the chat. And she's also joining our team to help with advising as well as employer relations. So Sang, if you just want to say hello so that everyone can see your face and know who you are.
Yeah, hi everyone. Like Lauren said, my name is Sang. I just joined the tech and design community this quarter. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to, get this quarter going, meet everyone, as I will also be student facing a lot of the time too. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the panel today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sang and Lauren, for that introduction. And I realized, Sang, I put you on the spot, so I apologize. This is your first program, so I appreciate the introduction. And just so you guys know, our career community, resume workshops, mock interviews, one-on-one advising, skills building, and networking events. These are some of the things that we do. I work primarily with employers, so if there's organizations that you're thinking about, man, I wish this company recruited at DePaul, feel free to reach out at any time. We can build those relationships, or I can investigate to see if we currently have them. So the three of us make up the technology and design career community team. And again, we're here to help you with all things career. So feel free to come see us at any time. We will again put in the chat a link to how to set up an appointment. Jumping right into our discussion today, we have a great lineup of panelists. And I wanna again thank all of our panelists for attending. A couple things before we get started. Number one, if you could please just keep yourself muted if you can just keep yourself muted, just to be respectful of all the panelists. Number two, if you have questions, feel free to start putting those in the chat right now. Feel free to just drop them in the chat. You can do everyone, or you can send them directly to myself or Lauren. What we're gonna do is we have a couple questions we're gonna ask the panelists, but we'll kind of be introducing your questions throughout the panel today. So feel free to ask any questions that come up. There will be a Q&A portion at the end, but we want to definitely allow your questions to be connected during the discussion. Nancy from TransUnion, and they'll talk about this at some point. She's going to be hiring for some positions, some computer science positions. They'll post Friday, so she'll talk about that. And I know RSM is hiring for some roles as well. So there are some practical opportunities that you could potentially take away. So yeah, we're going to jump right into the introductions of the panelists, and we're going to start with Amro.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amro Kutsi. I am a VP lead engineer in merchant services at JP Morgan Chase. And I'm very glad that I'm talking to you today. We have done few of these sessions in the previous years, but like physical sessions. This is the first time we're doing a virtual session. So hopefully we can pass the message. But I am a master's graduate from DePaul University software engineering program in 2003. Okay, so it's been 17 years now. You know, it's hard to believe that it's been 17 years. I came to the country in 2000. I had an undergrad in computer engineering. I've done the master's in software engineering. And then I got an internship through the university at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And after that, I got a full-time job as a developer it used to be Bank One. I think you guys most of you have been maybe babies at that time. But I started as a developer on a J2EE stack. Chase, I mean, it was Bank One at that time. Then in 2006, we got merged into JP Morgan Chase, and we became part of the whole JP Morgan Chase family. And so I moved from being a developer to a senior developer, and then I worked as an architect, solution architect, for a few years, and then I managed like major platform releases in commercial cards. So I worked as what they call it ADM, Application Development Manager. And then I joined Merchant Services in 2018, and so I'm a lead engineer now. Yeah, I can't. I'm very excited to meet you, as I said, and you know, we have a lot of positions. We have a lot of hiring in Chicago for computer science graduates and software engineers and data scientists and so forth. So nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for that introduction, Amro. Nancy, if you want to go ahead and do an introduction next.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Nancy Martinez. I manage the internship program at TransUnion. I've been with TU for a little bit over 4 years now, and we've done quite a bit of recruiting in the past for our internship program, where we have usually 30 plus internships looking for students within the computer science, information security, cybersecurity, computer engineering field. So definitely excited to be speaking to you all and giving you more of the perspective on the recruiter side of things here. So feel free to ask any questions around that.
Awesome. Thanks, Nancy. Alex, you want to go ahead and jump in?
Yeah, sure. My name's Alex Beam. I'm the supervisor at RSM in the Security, Privacy, and Risk department. We perform mainly security assessments such as like pen tests, internal pen tests, external pen tests, web applications, web services. So those are the types of testing that I do, primarily from Linux command line or tools like Burp Suite, that sort of thing. I graduated from University of Michigan in 2016, so I've been doing this for about 4 years. I started as an intern in 2016, and actually more of like a SOC testing background, where I was doing more audit work, and then I transitioned into web development and then into web testing essentially. So yeah, that's kind of my background and what I've been doing the last few years.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex, for joining us. Brent, you want to go ahead and do an intro?
Yep, absolutely. So my name is Brent Zielinski, also with RSM, manager out of our Chicago office. Been with the firm since I graduated, about 6.5, going on 7 years here. Like Alex, we help to do the more technical assessments for companies, but we also sort of help, and what I've been focused on the past few years is help companies really assess their cybersecurity risk at a holistic level, help implement and mature their cybersecurity programs. We can do that through the regulatory space if you're using regulated federal data, or looking through various industry accepted security frameworks. So yeah, that's what we focus on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, everyone. We really appreciate having you all here today. So I'm going to jump into the first question, and you all kind of talked a little bit. The first question was tell us a little bit about your role and how you came to your role. So it seems like you all kind of answered that a little bit. So I'm going to kind of jump to another question and really kind of just talk to us about, one, what was your first job in your current field? And then two, what were some of the challenges that you faced in the tech industry?
I can start. So
If we can actually just go, we can kind of just go in order here of the panelists, the slide, the photos there.
okay. So you have yeah. So I think I would say the first part is the the most challenging thing in the technology is that it keeps evolving. But the concepts and the computer science concepts are the same. They're same since 1960. So if you guys get those right, you can keep evolving whatever emerging technology is coming in. Like you'd be surprised that the mainframes that have been there for like 40, 50 years now, they use the very similar technology that microservice architecture uses now. So that's, I think, where the education, the technical training that you guys have in the university gives you an edge over people who come from just experience, like from whatever, like different field, I would say, like different type of engineering or completely, because there is a huge demand in computer science, as you know. Probably it's the number one job demand in the country. So with the correct theory and background in computer science, you can really quickly evolve into any emerging technology. And that was one of the main challenges, right? That you have to keep up with technology trends. You have to keep learning all your life long. What's your second question, Jameson? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great. Excellent point with the emerging challenge, just the emerging trends, because technology is changing every day. So it's such a great point, Amro. And what was your first job? What was your first role?
So my first job actually was the very first job here was a data entry in DePaul University. I worked part-time, and then I worked in the career center as a developer for like year and a half while I was studying there. And I loved these jobs. But then I got an internship through the university, and then as a programmer, and then I got my the rest of the jobs that I mentioned before.
Nice plug for the Career Center. From intern to VP, we are getting a treat right now, everyone. So thanks for sharing, Emerald. Nancy, you want to just let us know some, number one, what was your first job and what are some of the current challenges in the industry from the university recruiting side?
I think I'm still on mute here. So my first job during college, I would say in the field, what I was looking towards, I was actually an intern for Enterprise, the rental company. So my background is in management and marketing. So that's where I started off my internship. So, I mean, the technology they use, the systems they use there is very different from what is used here now. They still have the black and green screen on the computers to look at the database. So I've had a little bit of experience there in that field. I think right now, just in the industry in just the climate that we're in and the recruiting aspect of it all, getting engaged with students in a virtual setting is very different and something new that we're all looking at. And actually how to make it more personalized to meet with all of them right now. I think we're all trying to figure out how not to overload the students with all these Zoom or Skype, but actually getting to know them and for them to get to know us as a company as well, or in finding that right spot. Like, is this a right fit for them as well as for us, right? Because that's the main thing you do during an interview, and especially when you're doing it in person, you're getting to see the space and get to meet new people. So I think that's just one of the, in general, in the recruitment industry right now, what we're seeing.
Thanks for sharing, Nancy. Excellent point. Alex, you want to let us know, one, what was your first job, and two, what are some of the current challenges in your industry?
Sure. Yeah, so my first job kind of relevant to computer. Muted. Okay. I think my first job here, related to computer science was actually a web developer role that I did in college, where I actually worked for a pretty small consultancy, and they just kind of had different dashboards that they built for some of their clients to kind of do data visualization. But I really enjoyed it because it gave me kind of that foothold into understanding how web servers work, understanding how requests go back and forth between a client and a server, RESTful APIs, that sort of thing, to give me kind of like a background, because my actual formal experience was in business in college. That's actually my degree. So wanted to have something else under my belt, related to computer science. So that was really nice to start there. And then, nowadays I get to use a lot of those, fundamentals that I learned back then, when I'm doing web application testing and that sort of thing. So, I mean, Amro mentioned that, you guys are pretty lucky to have, formal education in college. And I can say from the other side of it, like, there are a lot of things I do now that I didn't necessarily have the formal education for initially. So, it is, nice to have that. But yeah, I think, one of the challenges that I see in my industry now is, you have to stay up to date all the time with, new vulnerabilities, new issues that arise. People talk about vulnerabilities in the wild, and, things come up without, much of they call it a 0 day, without much of, release about it. You might just see it the next day. So you really got to keep looking. I mean, places like Twitter, or just different blogs and that sort of thing are definitely where you find those emerging vulnerabilities and that sort of thing. But yeah.
That's awesome. Excellent point, Alex. Excellent. It's cool to hear that you're kind of a career changer a little bit from business to now the cybersecurity side of things. It's excellent. Awesome. So Brent, you want to let us know what's your first job, and what's some of the current challenges from your perspective in your industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first role, I was in college, and I sort of created my own consultancy, went out to friends, family, friends of friends, whoever needed security services, did a lot of my work at franchise restaurants, those sort of things. Basic security role, everything from protecting physical infrastructure to networks, setting up perimeter devices, really just, this is our computer guy, this is our security guy. Taught me quite a bit. I think the most important thing it taught me was how much I don't know. And so to your point, into the challenge, I think one of the biggest challenges we see at clients are, how do we tackle this big, huge field of security? There's new things coming out every day, like we've talked about. There's a million different frameworks. What do we do? And so staying up to date with that and just using the resources available, I found it has been, invaluable. Like Alex mentioned, using Twitter, using, modern techniques like social media, is still making cool using those sort of resources. Everything from that to using folks on your team or your friends. And so, if you have a specialist that is really good at coding these sort of scripts, rather than spinning your wheels, wasting your own time researching, create a cohesive team there to really help you and piece by piece put together a protected program there. So that's taught me a lot, and I think just tackling security as a whole is one of the biggest challenges we see, but breaking it down piece by piece, using resources available, has been invaluable.
It's a great ad there, and really to your point about Twitter and using social media, and a lot of there's a ton of free resources online, which is excellent. And I want to ask, we got a question here. So I got a question, and a long time ago, Java. I'll ask the full question here. Someone asked, a long time ago, my Java teacher told me that a good programmer can find work anywhere, that his skills are like a toolbox he'll have with him forever, and he can always keep his family fed with those skills. That's a great, I love that little nugget of advice advice there. The question is, how can an intermediate programmer best turn the general knowledge he got from education into specific refined skills he can make into a toolbox? And an example was hit the books, get to work, network. What are perhaps maybe we'll start with you, Emerald. What's your advice to that?
So
to that
my
question?
advice for you and those folks who are trying to get to the next level is by the best way to learn something is by doing it. So you can read books, you can watch a lot of videos, but unless you get your hands dirty into something, you're not gonna get the education, or you're not gonna get to the next level that you're looking for. So I would recommend that you can join. There are tons of online forums like open source projects, from small to big. Look at GitHub. There are tons and tons of mobile and servers and web apps and web services and microservices. And there's not any shortage of projects online. So this will give you two things. One, the first-hand knowledge that you need on working with the code. And secondly, you expand your network of people, and who putting your name on one of these open source projects, especially if you are a committer, is like a certificate that you're depending on the project, of course, but like this is a certificate that you're getting. Like you can put that on your resume that you're a committer on this such and such and such. That's huge. That's what employers are looking for.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for that, Emerald. Anyone else, Alex, Brandt, or even Nancy from the University Recruiting side, want to add to that? Ask that question. Just to repeat, how can an intermediate programmer best turn the general knowledge he got from education into specific refined skills he can make into a toolbox?
Yeah, this is Alex. Specific to like security testing, I would say similar to what Amo said, there's a lot of, resources out there. Specifically, there's, like hackathons or, capture the flag events. Also a lot of security tools on GitHub, things you can contribute to. So, if you participate in, capture the flag and, your team ends up placing in the top 3 or something, I think that's something to be, noted. And you could always talk about that. The job interview or something, it gives you a little bit of tangible experience. And yeah, GitHub as well. I mean, a lot of people will link their profile, and you can see that they have pull requests that have been taken in on projects and that sort of thing. So those are always great things to kind of show off, your specific tools.
Excellent. Excellent. Any Brent or Nancy want to add to anything? You don't have to. We can, but just to give you space if you want to add to that at all. If not, no worries.
Yeah, sure. So I'll take it a different way. Sort of one of my favorite things about when I started learning programming was the way it kind of shaped my mind into a different way of thinking. And so I think one of the most important things you can do, as you hone those technical skills, is learn to portray your thought process and sort of your ideas into more simple terms to sort of broaden your audience of who can understand those things. And so, you can be the best programmer in the world, but if you can only talk to other programmers about what you're doing, how much value do you bring to a room? If you're able to, create this code, create this application, and also sell it, and also explain, further use cases, those sort of things to folks in power that'll provide resources for you, that'll get you a long way. And so start thinking about sort of broadening your audience there and your horizon of who you're bringing that skill set to.
That's great. That's great, Brent. That's actually a fantastic point, and I actually want to. That leads into another question. Maybe Nancy, if you can help us with this. It sounded like Brent talked a lot about some soft skills that particularly in the tech space, is very important. If you can really communicate to a non-tech audience clearly and pretty directly a tech-related issue, that's very important. So, Nancy, I'm curious on your perspective from university recruiting, how valuable is soft skills in your process when you're hiring CS students, and what are some of those soft skills that you see what are some of those soft skills that are the most valuable that you've seen?
Yeah, good question. I think when it comes to the soft skills, they are very important, definitely depending on the role that you're looking for. But when looking at internships, we understand sometimes students don't have as much of the experience, right? You have to start somewhere. The soft skills are really going to showcase who you are, what you can contribute to with the teamwork that you're doing. I think those are one of the main areas that you definitely want to focus on, and being able to speak to a room, like Brent was saying, is very important, because you're not always working with programmers. You are going to be cross-collaborating with other people. When our interns present at the end of the summer, they're not just presenting to their team members or managers, they're presenting to all across different teams. And being able to share what they did for other people to understand that is a valuable skill that, they need. And it's something that we all learn how to do. We all have our own speak. I like to say, I know even in HR, we have our HR speak, you have your tech speak. It's a way of how everyone has their acronyms or the way you say certain things. We have to think about your audience, and I think that's very important when you're able to sell that, because you're always trying to sell, whether it's yourself, showcasing all the great work that you're doing, or showcasing kind of what your team did and what you need if you're building a case on how to get new funding, or that you need to progress more on this project. Like being able to share those with everyone in general is really great. And I think that goes down to sometimes even the behavioral questions that you receive during the interviews. That's also helpful in that spectrum.
Awesome. Thank you for that perspective, Nancy. Excellent, excellent. Got a question about professional certifications, and we get this pretty often. I get this quite a bit with students. I'm curious, each of your perspectives, professional certifications, are they valuable? Are they attractive? Are there professional certifications that either of you have, Nancy, from that university recruiting perspective? Are there professional certifications that you give more priority to? So we'll start with you, Amro. If you can just talk to us about professional certifications, generally good thing, bad thing. What are your thoughts?
Definitely, they are a big plus on the resume, especially if you are if you have a certificate that is similar to the job that you're applying to. So, for example, if you're applying for a job that a company that uses like open source or Java stack, a Microsoft certificate would be good, but it would not be really a great achievement for that position, right? But there are things in the market that are really now picking up, as especially the cloud services, like AWS certificate, for example, or Azure certificate. Those probably would give you a big plus on the resume. They're not going to be enough alone. There are other things that employers look at, but yeah, the right certificate for the right position is a big plus. So look at what's available in the market. What's different industries uses different tool and stacks, right? And the expectation that when you, especially for you guys, when you're coming into the job market, the expectations are not that you're not going to be a super knowledgeable person in any of these things, right? That's expected, right? They're just looking for the right person that can learn and has the right attitude, soft skills that can fit well in the team. And of course, whatever you say on the resume has to be what you have done, right? That's what they look at when hiring.
Awesome. Excellent perspective, Amro. Anyone else? Alex, Brent, Nancy, want to add to that?
I think what Amro shared of the certification, if it aligns with the role, what the skills that they're looking for, I think it's a great plus. If anything as well, what it shows is your initiative to go outside of just what you're learning already in school and expanding more of that. I think that definitely showcases that for us as well, even if sometimes it doesn't match up, but it shows that you are taking more of that initiative to learn more and are interested. You have a curious mind in that aspect, which is important.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Nancy. Mm-hmm. Anyone, Alex or Brent, you want to add? Just do either of you have professional certifications? Do you see that as something valuable in your industries?
Sure, yeah. Specifically for security testing, I think the OSCP is kind of one that we look for, offensive security certified professional. That's more specific to, pen testing, like internal networks or external networks. But yeah, I mean, if we see an applicant with something like that, we definitely like to talk to them. And then also, if they have certifications in other things related to security, like CISSP or something of that nature, those are kind of the main ones that we look at. Right.
Yeah, I would just quickly echo that. I mean, it shows initiative, shows drive that you're willing to go out and do those things. That being said, I mean, a lot of the jobs that you apply for likely have, maybe not required, but suggested certifications to take a look at. That being said, to the opposite point, a lot of these jobs expect you to have a baseline of this stuff, maybe not be an expert. And so I wouldn't say it'd be worth, going into depth trying to achieve these top level certifications as an end all be all. It certainly sets a nice baseline and gets you in the room for conversations. But ultimately, some of those are just tests. And so being able to apply those skills is very important as well.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I see we have some questions in the chat that might be a little bit more specific to your individual situation. So I'll ask them a little more broadly just to just to make sure we can include everybody and everyone listening. So just generally, what are some ways that, just from your perspective, each of you, what are some ways that students, cybersecurity, computer science, what are some ways they can make themselves perhaps more attractive or perhaps a little bit more competitive for some of these tech jobs? I know that cybersecurity, for example, I know there's a little bit of a talent shortage in that area. I know that there's a projected to be some explosive growth there in the next couple of years. There's a little bit of a shortage there. Software development jobs, I know we're seeing those pretty consistently. So just what are some tips that you have for students that are looking to maybe showcase themselves or make themselves a little bit more competitive, maybe outside of the certifications? Anyone can feel free to jump in.
I can start. So few things here. First of all, that career center process that Jameson mentioned in the beginning, definitely take these opportunities. I meet a lot of students from different schools, and without mentioning any school, they don't have a good resume. And when I ask them, why do you guys don't have a good resume? Have you attended a career shop? They say no. So you have these opportunities at the school at your disposal. Definitely take care of, take them seriously. Attend a career resume writing workshop. Go through the steps like for mock interviews. Train on that interview skills. And I think the best advice that I can give you to improve your to be more visible is networking. This is like the number one advice, because there are a lot of jobs. There are a lot of jobs in the country, especially in this field. But there are a lot of people applying. Like when I put a position open, I get like 100 resume a day. There's no way for me to go through 100. So there are things that they will teach you in when you write your resume. There are sections that you need to put like buzzwords and suitable for the job that you're applying for. So the search engine that is picking up the 10 resumes, finding these that are matching the position, right? After that, the recruiter comes in, like most likely from the HR. They just check that the resume is well formed and the person has the minimum for the job. Then they provide the resume to the hiring manager. That's when it comes to us, right? When we look at these resumes. So have a very good resume that has the correct sections and the correct buzzwords for that career, and network a lot. Networking is probably the key to get a good good starting job and any other job, right? Like you need to know who's hiring for what, and use LinkedIn, for example, to see where are the jobs and what they require, and do you have these skills that the jobs require, and they will teach you all of that through the process, for the interviewing and networking and resume building. So definitely take care of that. Take advantage, I mean.
I will say definitely when it comes to the resume, I mean, that's your first impression that you're making for most part. it's not someone that you know already in the company through a network, but you're just applying, your resume is the first thing that a recruiter is seeing, or in some cases, you know, a system, AI is filtered through. So definitely you want to make sure that you're adapting your resume. You might not be able always to use the same resume for every role that you apply. You will have to make some changes. Look at what is that specific role asking for, and do you include it in your resume? And that's for both internship and full-time opportunities. Your resume is your story. It tells us the background about who you are. So definitely also think about when you're building out, you know, those bullet points of what you did in projects or what you did for a certain role that you've had, internship. Make sure that you are sharing your story. Think about the acronym CAR, challenge, action, result. So what was the challenge? What did you do to solve it, and why? Right? What did it end up solving for whoever you were doing this for? Or how did you support? That really showcases a lot more of who you are and what you're doing. And I think that's what I've seen stand out sometimes when it comes to the resume portion of it. But also if you're interviewing, it's the same thing, being able to tell your story in a concise format, and having that set up in that way too. There's always a typical question of, tell me a little bit about yourself. So being able to tie that in based on what you're seeing that they're asking for and what you do, what you have experience with, how are you tying that in there? If this is a tech background, so yeah, you would write out, I know how to code, right? C, C++, C#, whatever it may be. Tell us within what projects did you use these programming skills? Like, what was your role? That gives us a better story too. So just high level there.
Yeah, and I think just to piggyback off of Nancy there, I think that's great advice on the resume side and what to see. What really we look for when we're talking to candidates is passion, really, and being genuine. You know, you talk to someone and they're trying to throw big words out, and it's, you know, maybe obvious that they're just trying to. I mean, I've heard quotes that, yeah, I just want to work in technology. What jobs do you have available? I'll take whatever. And that stuff isn't genuine, obviously. And so, how much really effort are they going to put in? How many, you know, how much they know about those things, sort of things. Like I talked about earlier, we don't expect new hires to know everything. We expect them to be able to learn and be able to apply, you know, skills and hard skills and soft skills. And so if you're able to show, hey, I really like doing this type of coding, I really like doing working with these kind of applications, and be able to show that passion and being genuine, you're much likely to be hired, you know, based on whatever experience or lack of experience you have, just based on your drive. And that coincides with the state of the industry and staying up to date.
Yeah, and if you're willing to talk about experience you've had hands-on with, you know, some of that stuff, not necessarily just like, oh, these are classes that I took, but, you know, in the interview, if you talk about, hey, I set up like a lab, or, you know, I did these exercises for AWS associate challenges, or things related, you know, to anything that you did on your own time, always looks good as well. And lastly, just, I think that, you know, as much as I kind of disliked, you know, going to networking events, and, you know, they just felt kind of awkward at times. And, you know, I didn't like standing around with, you know, a bunch of other people. Ultimately, it is great experience, you know, to go to those sort of things and break the ice with people, and get your feet wet. So, yeah, that's what I'd add.
It's awesome. Thanks a lot for adding that perspective. I want to feel free to continue to add questions in the chat, everyone. I'll kind of I'll broaden them so that they're applicable to everyone attending. We got a couple questions about advice for just career, mid-career and career changers. What are some general advice that you have for those who, and Alex, I know you kind of shifted from business to tech. What's some advice that you have for those individuals who are career changing, coming from a background that's not related in tech? And then the second part of that may go to you, Nancy. We had a question about, are internships strictly for undergrads, or are they or do you guys hire folks that are grads, or maybe those that are you know, transitioning from a different career? So I'll just open it up to anyone that wants to kind of start.
Sure, I'll talk a little about the transition part. I guess this wasn't mid-career. I mean, this was more when I was still in college, but I think it was helpful that I surrounded myself with people in different fields. So I was from business school, and then I joined an entrepreneurship group where there were a lot of people that were interested in startups and coding and putting together web applications or mobile applications. And I thought that just by joining that, it was a great outlet for me to see different things. People in the engineering school and computer science department. So yeah, I think just surrounding yourself with people from other fields was helpful for my transition.
And oh, sorry, go ahead,
I
Amro.
can just add to what Alex said. I mean, I see this career changing all the time. People switch from different engineering fields to computer science and software engineering, and people also mid-career they sometimes I see that a lot switch from like tech into business, and that always happen. So and that's really good thing because you bring your perspective from whatever field, especially if they're kind of related, right? Like tech doesn't exist without business. We're solving some business problems, and the business side always, for example, love to have that someone with them in the team that has that perspective that can enriches their requirements, for example, and vice versa. When you have someone from business switching to the tech side, they bring that business knowledge into tech, which is very valuable. So these are very positive things. You just need to have that enough training that you can go into that first step when you switch your career. So depending on the situation and the type of the job you're switching into, you need to have the basics, right? And then you will grow from there. They can get a lot of training, a lot of opportunities to expand your knowledge. And I have multiple examples from my team who did going both ways.
Excellent perspective there, Amro. Let's see, we have. Feel free to continue to add questions. I want to ask really quick, what are some of the most interesting trends that you're seeing currently in your industry, in tech? What are some things that you're seeing perhaps from CS? Are there any trends that are just within this current COVID world? Are there some trends that you're seeing in the tech industry that's been pretty interesting to you, or trends that you perhaps see moving the industry in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of trends going on. I mean, the way that we used to develop software before, used to be more like closer to the machine, right? Like we used to write in assembly and C plus C and then C plus plus, right? Which are like more oriented to the machine. And the more we, time goes by and advancement in technology, you get the fourth level. You have like the languages like the C# and Java, and then now, and that was a trend when I started. So object-oriented programming, right, was the big thing at that time. So you present everything in an object, and now the trend moving back to like functional programming and scripting languages, right? Like JavaScript and the JavaScript ecosystem and Pythons and a bunch of new frameworks on the UI on JavaScript like React and Angular. And the more we go through this, the higher level, like now we are at a point where you really don't want to tell the machine how to do something, right? You just tell it what you want, and it will figure out how to do that. And you can see that also big time with the AI providers, right? Like now Amazon and Google, they are at a third AI level, right? They have already services for you that you don't have to develop. You don't have to be you have a PhD in AI to be able to build the model now, right? They have like the third level of services where the models are trained and ready, and you just have APIs to invoke them, and all what you do is wiring these components together to achieve that business goal or the next idea that you're working on, or the next invention. So there are a lot of building blocks that have been built already. There's nothing you can think of not already someone's thinking of, right? The next big thing is that how do you leverage the existing wealth of software components and services in building that that niche market, or solve that problem at work that you're working on. So things are really becoming easier to use, but then there are broad and plethora of these services, with different non-functional specs, with different capabilities that you can put together, to build that next thing, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thanks for adding that, Emerald. Thanks for adding that perspective. Alex did have to head out a little bit. So Nancy or Brent, you want to add any trends that you're seeing, tech trends to watch out for, anything that's interesting?
Sure. I think the privacy space has really been interesting the past few years. Our group, as you'll see on Alex, my sheet there is security, privacy, and risk. Traditionally, we've been, I wouldn't say 90% security. And that side, that's just where the industry has been. Privacy with CCPA, with GDPR, and some of these potential federal regulations coming into play. It's really the Wild West, and so becoming well versed in what those regulations can bring, and generally accepted privacy principles, those sort of things can really give you a leg up on the competition, because really as of now there is limited competition out there. And so while security is sort of the baseline, privacy is really the next wave here that we've been looking at and getting into. It's been interesting.
Thanks for that perspective. Nancy, anything just from that, perhaps your side on the university recruiting that you're seeing in terms of trends?
A lot what I'm seeing right now would be more on the cloud side of things. I think there's been a lot of growth there. I know many teams are expanding in that format as well. I know there's a lot of focus even on training current employees in that field as well. So definitely seeing that growth. I think I didn't also get to touch base on the previous question about internships being strictly undergrad or graduates. I did want to answer that before we have to log off here. Our internships are open both to undergrads and graduates. It's just depending on the opportunity there and what the manager is looking for. We have had folks who did a career change, right, and now are getting their master's and maybe are looking for that internship opportunity. We have seen that occur as well, and very open to it. I think they bring in a different perspective, different knowledge as well into those internship opportunities.
Thanks for that perspective, Nancy. Appreciate that. And so we're at 4:48, about 12 minutes. Just want to be mindful of time. So I'm going to ask one more question we have in the chat here. And this question is, how much weight do projects have in applying to jobs? How deep should they be? And they would appreciate any advice that you can provide on the level or the kinds of projects that would gain the most attention. And feel free, if either of you want to jump in, feel free.
So, I mean, obviously, the bigger, the deeper project will have more weight, right? And the interviewers usually are able to tell if someone just joined, to put that on the resume, or they're actually a true committer. So, I mean, these are no secrets, right? Like, you can really look at their GitHub or whatever they're providing as a resource or proof for their participation. So I'd say that the bigger the project is, the more weight it has, right? But again, at your level, the expectation is really the bar is not very high, because as I said, there is a huge demand at this point. And as long as you are able to learn and communicate your skills and show that you have made a difference in something, in one of the projects you're on or worked on, I think that would get you to that first step.
Excellent perspective, Emerald. Excellent. Brent, maybe do you want to add from your experience, were there any projects that perhaps you worked on that you found to be valuable in your current role?
Sure. So I guess to kind of take a step up, I mean, what I look for, individual projects can be interesting and can gain, perspective on what you like and what you're good at. But I think one of the questions I like to ask people is, what do you do when you have too many projects? How do you manage your time, manage your projects? Because, being in this space with so many things going on, having to do your own learning, having to work with different clients if you're in that space, is absolutely invaluable. And so being able to talk to, I had this project going on, it was critical, but then this came up, here's how I handled it, this is the adversity, this is what I did, can be just as valuable as saying, I did this one project, I did a really good job, and it was over. And so, individual projects based on what the role will be certainly makes sense, but certainly taking into play, how much you're able to weigh and how much you're able to kind of manage different projects going on.
And I'd like to add that you must like what you're doing. I mean, this would be very obvious in the interview, because often employers ask the candidates, so tell me about a side project, or tell me about what do you do for, like when you're not at work or not at school. Do you have any side project, pet project, something that you're working on, something you're passionate about? That shows that you really like what you're doing and you are in it like as a whole, right? Not just as a 9-to-5 job and that's it.
Excellent, excellent. Nancy, from your perspective, any projects that you see from your side on the university recruiting side that have more weight or more value?
Not any specific project that I've seen that adds more weight. I think it really, like Cameron says, it just shows more of the curious mind that you have, the initiative you take, that you are exploring this. I think it shows us just how you're looking into, if we give you a project, right, you're not just going to go ahead and do the steps we tell you, but you're going to think ahead. Like, actually, I was curious about this and thought, could we do this instead? I mean, there's so much that comes to it when you're showing us or explaining to us your project. You do see the enthusiasm. I mean, that's one thing you always want to bring in an interview, enthusiasm and showing how much you care about it. I think that's what really shines in the interviews as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining. So we have about 7 minutes. So Lauren's going to launch a poll. He just launched the poll. So if you want to, if all of our student participants can fill out the poll, that would be extremely helpful. And I want to really thank our panelists for participating today. We're going to be doing some more programs like this throughout our virtual world. And I want to just say, if as you're going through, for students that are listening, we're learning as well what works and what doesn't work. So if you have ideas on how to make these a little more interactive, or if there's anything particular that you would like to see from us as a career community, feel free to let us know. We will definitely do our best to make this as seamless as possible. And I want to reiterate what Amro said earlier. Come see us in the Career Center. We're here to help with resume workshops, interview prep, etc. Nancy, there's going to be, Amro, do you want to talk about, or I don't know if you have, I know you mentioned you have some positions available. I don't know if they're currently available, but if you know of any, I know Nancy, yours are going to yours going to come posted Friday. We'll make sure to share all of the positions that are available after, but if either of you if you want to talk about any roles that are coming down the pipeline or any roles that you have available, I think that could be
so all the roles that we have are available on our student career website. You can Google for it, JP Morgan student career jobs. You'll find our main job sites, and then there's like 2 options: one for students, one for the normal full-time people. So all the positions are there. Best thing to do is to go, if you haven't graduated yet, is to go through what's called our SEP program, the software engineering program. And we do recruit in the major universities around the Midwest. And make sure you apply there and look at the dates that like you have to apply by, right? There are deadlines that definitely apply there, and attend these events. And if you like what you're seeing, you can email me your resume. My email is my first name dot last name at jpmchase.com. And if you're interested, there are always people who change their mind last minute, so they drop out. So they look at who applied next, and if you have any internship, that would be great experience to the job. So go do an internship if you haven't done that yet, and then that will definitely lead you into a full-time job when you graduate.
And for my end, we will have the opportunities open up by the end of the week. They'll be on Handshake. They'll also be on our careers website. But I'm also happy to share we have a talent community. So if you all want to sign up through there, I send out biweekly communications as well about those opportunities. So I'll share that link in the chat as well.
Thanks, Nancy. Awesome. Well, again, thank everybody for joining. We're right at time. We'll be following up again with once the positions for TransUnion is posted. I'll make sure we get all those sent out to you. And again, thank the panelists for joining. I really appreciate you all spending your time with us during a busy season for each of you. So thank you for joining and providing some feedback and some insight. So I'm going to, if there's any students that want to stay on for a little bit, I'll be on for a little bit if you have any additional questions, but we're all good to go. Thanks for joining, everyone. All right, hope you all have a good night.
Thank you. Bye,
Good night.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, all.
Bye.